sing from my heart. Whatever happened to my life? I can't ever have a beer. Always stuck because we're queer. Up to here with frustrations and with fears. I've no luck and no rewards. I've no baby on board. I'm constantly aware of what I eat. What I eat. So let this be over already. Whatever happened to our flow? I was happy, now I don't know. I'm with a woman whom I like, but that won't help to make this right. I might as well go to the pub. Maybe a drink will make it stop. Ignoring all the stress, no baby nonetheless. It seems to me I've really lost the plot. Whatever happened to my... I'll call my doctors, damn it. Whatever happened to my... Not yours. Not yours. But my... Meanwhile, the techniques that control heterosexual reproduction have been increasingly externalized in recent decades. First, the female pill separated heterosexuality from reproduction, rendering obsolete the rationale that originally justified the hetero versus homosexual schematic as an opposition between normal, reproductive, and pathological, non-reproductive sexualities. Second, with the advent of IVF, sexual recombination began to take place outside the body. Soon, the industrialization of the external womb will make the archaic distinction between masculinity and femininity obsolete too. The term heteronormativity has developed within studies of sexualities to denote how heterosexuality is produced as the normal sexual practice. Prevailing norms of heterosexuality can be understood as operating on multiple social levels. The concept of heteronormativity does not encompass the full complexity of different social dimensions of heterosexuality. I use heteronormativity to describe the way in which heterosexuality is constructed both socially and culturally. The term heterosexual imaginary was developed as a critique of unacknowledged and under-theorized heterosexuality. Ingram's heterosexual imaginary refers to the way in which heterosexuality is normalized and hence is considered to require neither exploration nor explanation, while gender is understood as socially constructed. Heterosexuality remains the normal. Ingram states, the heterosexual imaginary is that way of thinking which conceals the operation of heterosexuality as an organizing and structuring gender and closes off any critical analysis of heterosexuality as an organizing institution. The effect of this depiction is that heterosexuality circulates as taken for granted, naturally occurring and unquestioned, while gender is understood as socially constructed and central to the organization of everyday life. It is clear that the heteronormative ideal of gender equality revolves around the problem that pregnancy and motherhood pose to equality between men and women in the labor market as well as the home, also shapes understandings of equality in same-sex families. The overarching argument for equality
is that biology both does and does not matter. It might be important in the forming of kinship, but not in the forming of care. Both heteronormative, gender equality, and same-sex mother parenthood, I contend, thus require the downplaying of the difference that pregnancy poses. When the idea of same-sex motherhood rests on an idea of gendered sameness, becoming fertile means that lesbian and other queer women are drawn into a heteronormative discourse in which the position of mother remains singular and thus must be shared equally. I would argue that an ideology that departs from a white, middle-class, nuclear family logic inevitably leads to an idea of parental equality that requires sameness, or the absence of difference. Among lesbians, the difference that fertility, pregnancy, gestational motherhood makes is understood as problematic primarily when it risks undermining the position of the other parent, or when it results in a division of labor that can mimic that of heteronormativity or women's subordination in a heterosexist world.
Interesante, ¿no?